Hello, guys, and welcome to my way too early Super Bowl contender list. Now, I'm obviously going to go over every team. These tiers kind of speak for themselves. We have close to no chance as teams that I see as they're going to be bottom dweller teams more than likely, next year. Talent, but question marks is that maybe they have a good QB, maybe they have like a wide receiver, maybe their defense is decent or something like that, but there's just like, I don't know, they don't have enough. Dark horse is that, these guys are close, they need a couple of maybe players, or maybe they're lacking in something of some Super Bowl caliber team would have. And then legit contenders, the teams that clearly fly, are complete, and that sort of thing. I'm not going to say a few weeks, but after the draft and after like free agency or after things have settled, I am going to do another iteration of this video to see if I think that any teams rose to be legit contenders or what have you with the talent that they acquired in the off season. But without further ado, let's get started with the video. What I'm going to start off by doing is I am going to list one in each column to kind of be the baseline for like, the baseline, to go and kind of, mark and show what I think. So close to no chance. The team that I think has close to no chance next year is, sadly, it's going to be the Titans. I think the Titans, with all the question marks that they have, I just think that I don't think that they're going to be a team that's going to be able to move the point, type of thing. Like, I think that their defense does have talent, but it's like their offense is just, so unknown. We have no clue what their offense is going to look like. Now moving on to talent with question marks, I am going to list. The team that I'm going to list here is the Jaguars. And the reason I say that about the Jaguars is obviously, I was happy that they got rid of Peterson, but their new guy, who the heck knows? I think that Trevor Lawrence can still be a good QB. I think it's going to be, somewhat tough on him to have another new system, and that sort of thing that he's going to have to learn. I think that they have talent. I just think that, there's too many question marks on this team. The pass rush was one thing. They have talent, and I mean, I think that, on offense, I think that they have talent. Too often they stutter, and that sort of thing. Now with the marquee dark horse, team that I think, people may agree with is gonna be the Vikings. This last year, I don't think that the Vikings, I think that a lot of people wanted to kind of give it to the Vikings and say that they were a legit contender during the regular season. And that, the NFC North was the toughest division in football. And it looked to be that way, but the NFC North just seemed to kind of run out of steam and teams just kind of like collapsed at the end, And it's like my Packers kind of were very like off and on this year, obviously off against like the better teams, and it was kind of a learning year for, them. But the Vikings to me were like the prime, marquee dark horse, just because, Darnold looks like he's going to be a free agent. And that's the main reason why I think that they're going to be a dark horse. They obviously have a lot of talent, but it's like, Darnold looks like he's going to walk. And with that, with uncertainty at QB, with it technically being it'll be McCarthy's rookie season, I just, who knows? Now, legit Super Bowl contenders, I think it's going to be no shock to anybody that I am putting the Eagles here. So the Eagles, I don't see any reason why they can't be legit next year. Jalen Hurts impressed me, like I said, in the Super Bowl. He was throwing accurately. He was on time. And if we see that Jalen Hurts year in and year out, this is a very dangerous team that it's like could have the best record in the league next year. With the young talent they acquired, yes, Darius Slay might retire and that sort of thing, but they look like they're well prepared for it, actually. With, drafting Mitchell and DeJean. And then it's like you're not even talking about the D-line, Jalen Carter. They're not losing a lot of pieces, and the pieces they're losing are good pieces. Like, I think, gosh, I'm trying to remember who it is on the D-line that's leaving, but, he's a guy that, will be signed and paid a good amount of money, but they don't need him. They're good. And I mean, them losing Zach Bond, I think it might show that they have a good linebacker coach, or they have a good defensive scheme with Fangio, in the sense that like they could bring in another guy, and another guy could play, maybe not as well, because Zach Bond played unbelievably well, but they have too many pieces. And then it's like you talk about the offense, Reaper, Saquon, and Brown. And then, and then Goddard. It's like, and then like I said about Hurts, Hurts, he played really well in the Super Bowl, and should it carry over to next year, this team could put up crazy numbers again. Now I'm going to go over a few more close to no chance teams, and I'm going to put in several numbers here, because I'm going to try to base this on like the top. So in Super Bowl contenders and dark horse are going to be the teams that I kind of see making the playoffs next year. And then obviously the question mark teams, and then the close to no chance will be my teams that fill out the bottom. So close to no chance, another team that I'm seeing that I think isn't going to be able to do enough is the Saints. The Saints, as we all know, they really, getting rid of Derek Carr, I think would be a good thing. I think starting Spencer Rattler, because clearly, they drafted him, I think, for a reason. And it's like, obviously with a new head coach, I don't know if Mond'll go for Derek Carr. I think he would more than likely be trying to develop Rattler, who was a pretty good prospect before Caleb Williams came in and just took his luster, I guess, on his team. But yeah, the Saints, I just don't see it. They were too injury prone last year. Even with, their aging players and their cap space taken into consideration, I just don't see it. Another no chance team that I see here, and to be honest, I kind of give these teams the benefit of the doubt, but another no chance team that I see is the Browns. They're losing talent, and we don't know what they're going to do at QB. They obviously have Stefanski at head coach, and this could honestly be the year to me where it's like this guy could get fired. And the Browns. You look at a lot of these other teams, and it's just like, are they gonna be able to do well? But anyway, the Browns, my opinion on them is that they could go from having Nick Chubb, obviously off of a major injury, But we all know Nick Chubb. We've seen the videos of him squatting so much. We know that that guy is a dog. And, even though he's approaching 30, a guy like that is rare. And it's like the team that adds him is going to instantly have a dude who is going to push that team, force his will on them. And it's like all this mumbo jumbo about Myles Garrett that, hey, we won't trade him, blah, 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 and all this and all that. It's like the Browns are playing it tough, but it's like you cannot tell me that they think that they're legitimately gonna, I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett held out or if he at some point was like, I'm going to hold out and I'm not going to play. Because it's like, you think about a guy like this and how much money he's made, how much he could still make because he's a freak. This guy has every right to hold out because this organization has ultimately failed him and wasted the first, maybe half of his career, maybe more. But it's like the Browns, to me, close to no chance. Like the culture there sucks. There's so much wrong with this team. And then looking at, maybe another team that I think is close to no chance. And I hate to say this because I do think that they're doing good things, is the Patriots. The Patriots, to me, Drake May's the man. He's going to be your dude. He's going to be your guy. I don't know if you're going to be able to surround him with enough talent. You obviously do have cap space, but this isn't like a video where it's like I'm forecasting what it is. It's what they are right now at the end of the season and it's like who cares if they're losing anybody? To be honest with you, they obviously have Drake May under contract, and that's like kind of, I wouldn't say the only thing that I care about, but I know that they have several, solid players on this team that are well coached and good players. Even last year, it's like the Patriots competed in games that you wouldn't think they would have because they had a QB that really laid it out on the line. But the Patriots, to me, they don't have enough talent for me to say that talent, but question marks, they just have close to no chance. Maybe it could be a lot different, depending on free agency, and it definitely could be for the Patriots. But I'm gonna move on to talent, but question marks, for a couple of these. So talent, but question marks. And some might find this kind of shocking that I'm gonna put this team here, but I'm gonna put the Jets. Obviously, I am gonna say that they're moving on from Rodgers and Davante Adams. I am taking that into consideration because they have literally said it. I think it's only a matter of time, and that it's like they're a package deal. It's like Gronk and Brady in a way. Don't hate me for saying that, but I mean it's true in the sense of wide receiver to QB. But the Jets, to me, I think that, new head coach, I think that they're going to be able to, maybe not get their QB of the future in this draft, but they might. I mean, people aren't even saying it, but I honestly, this might sound kind of crazy, but I think that they might be a team that might be in play to potentially, and it might sound crazy, I don't know how much the Jets have in cap. I don't know what it's gonna look like when they ship Davante and Rodgers. They're probably gonna try to free up some cap space, to be able to play. But I think it would, it sounds crazy, but I think that they would maybe go after Sam Darnold potentially as their long-term solution, or maybe multi-year solution, type of thing. Bring him back where he was drafted, with new staff, obviously, because I think of, Aaron Glenn is obviously, he's been on the Lions for the last few years. I think that if you look at Darnold and you look at, and you look at Goff, Darnold to me is somewhat similar to Goff, where it's like he doesn't have the greatest deep ball, but he does, have more mobility, so he's got a little bit of an edge there. And then he also, he's a similar style quarterback in my sense. He just had a better supporting cast than Goff did, even though Goff's supporting cast is, insane, obviously. But it's like the Lions and the Vikings have had two just, crazy good offenses for years now. But the Jets, I think, Aaron Glenn's going to have them playing good defense on there. He may be the guy to unlock Sauce Gardner and to really like turn him into an all-pro. And then it's like that defense, 2 years ago was very, very good. And 3 years ago, like they have the talent. I just think that the culture was kind of bad. And I think with a guy like Glenn, they can start to play like, how they were like, 3 or 4 years ago, because they still have that talent. Now, another team that I'm going to put here is the Dolphins in the same division. The Dolphins, to me, the problem with them is that their defense couldn't tackle very well. They obviously, who knows if there's merit to like Tyreek wanting to leave, but it's like their offense is kind of like, outscore the opponent, and that's how you're going to win. And trust me, I know through being, a Packers fan for so many years with like a low ranking defense, it's not a good way to win. And to me, it doesn't even make you a dark horse. It makes you fun to watch, but I'm going to really, the question, and some of the other question marks are like, can Tua stay healthy the whole year? Because it seems predicated on their success that he stay healthy. And, that's what I have to say about them. I think their head coach is brilliant. People that throw him under the bus, like I don't get it or whatever. But we're gonna move back to Dark Horse, and under Dark Horse, I'm gonna put another NFC North team. I am going to put the Bears, actually. So the Bears, to me, they have the talent. Their O-line is bad, but it's like this is going into an offseason where there are some good guards and, tackles available. And it's like the Bears have cap space, and they could leave their defense be, to me. Maybe add another corner is like the only thing. I think Jalen Johnson is obviously, he's very good. And it's like maybe a safety. But the only, sort of like problems I see with the Bears are who they have at running back and their O-line. I'd like to criticize Caleb Williams, but I'm giving him a little bit more time just because I'm a Packers fan. I obviously want him to fail, that type of thing. But it's like, even going to, I'm going to go say another NFC North team, and this might seem insane. So I think the Lions are gonna be a dark horse team. You know what? Heck with it. I'm gonna also put the Packers right now. I think the whole NFC North are dark horse for this year. The reason why I say for the Lions is I don't think it is unreasonable to say that without, with losing both coordinators, don't get me wrong, I think that Aiden Hutchinson will be Aiden Hutchinson again, so their defense doesn't really necessarily need to have a great scheme, but the thing about it is that they are losing some guys. And it's like, who knows what their defense is going to look like? it's just a dicey thing to lose a defensive coordinator that, like, last year he really, tried to keep it together as best as he could with the amount of injuries they had. And then I also think they're dark horse because of their quarterback. Goff, to me, and I've said this for years, he doesn't throw a good deep ball. I think that if you made it really, really tough on Goff and you played like, an in-your-face type of thing where he's having to force, short passes all day, and then the only player that you're covering over the top is Jameson Williams, obviously, it's going to be tough on Goff because he doesn't throw it downfield, super well. And we saw it, and it's like, against the Texans, who we found had an elite defense, did really well against the Chiefs, even though they lost because the offense couldn't score. And it's like, they picked them off 5 times. And the only reason they won that game was because, essentially the Texans on offense couldn't do anything, because their O-line was rough this year. But, like, you look at Goff, and to me, I do believe that he's not the guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl. I think they have every piece they need. I just think that if they can't do a ground and pound style and play with a lead, then it is it's a different game for them, where it's like Goff can't lead you to victory. He's not going to carry your team. Now, looking at my Packers, there's only a couple things that I really think are holding back my Packers. I would say the wide receiver room, because of the drops last year. I think that Jordan Love can be the guy. Some of the passes he drops into the basket, you can't be telling me that you don't think that when he's on his game, he can make throws that, are great throws, and that sort of thing. And sure, he's somewhat of a gambler, but I also think that last year he was kind of derailed with the injury, and who knows if that kind of led to him not practicing as much and his receivers not being on the same page as him. We never know how deep it goes when your quarterback is off or not himself, and how that, can affect the chemistry between the wide receivers and them. And who knows, maybe next year, if he's never injured and he plays all 17 games, it's completely different. But it's like, if the wide receiver room is anywhere like it was this year, it's going to be tough. You're going to have a ground. And I mean, we had a good ground and pound game this year with Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel, and Wilson, and Chris Brooks. And it's like, we drafted Marshawn Lloyd, who I kind of expect to have a bigger year, next year. Because he obviously didn't play this year, but like, he'll play or a bigger role in the sense, type of thing. But it's like the whole NFC North to me it's interesting because it might honestly be one of the most competitive divisions again, where it's like, this could really come down to the wire, but moving on to legit contenders again and adding some, more teams to this. I'm going to do an AFC one. I'm going to say the Ravens. The Ravens, to me, they're not really losing anybody. That's a key focal point. They are losing Stanley, but I think that he's been kind of injury prone. That defense that they figured it out how to really play super, super well. That's one thing you need on defense. And I think that the only thing they could do better on defense potentially is pressuring the quarterback better. But they play very, very soundly. And it's like, even with the limited pressure, they were a very good defense, after the bye this last season. And then obviously the offense, I think that, if Zay Flowers didn't get hurt or whatever, we're talking Chiefs, Ravens in the championship game instead of Bills, Chiefs. And that's nothing against the Bills. They outperformed what a lot of people said, and that sort of thing. And, I fully believe, and you know what? I'm gonna throw them on this list. I think the Bills, you know, I think the defense can get better, of course, but I think that it's like Josh Allen. Obviously, he won MVP, and a lot of people were like, "Oh no, they snubbed Lamar." I honestly think that the amount of pressure that was put on Allen this year and the way he led the team and had like his fewest picks ever. I mean, he was, and the games that they won, it's like he deserved it, and it's like they're going to be even better next year. I think that they can improve in their passing attack. Let's do some more close to no chance teams. So here, I think that a team that doesn't really have a chance is the Colts. No offense to them, but it's like the culture there seems to really suck. Really suck. So I don't think I even need to say very much, but the Colts, it's just like, where do you even start? Player energy is bad. They're handling, I think, Anthony Richardson really poorly. And it's just like, I'd like to put them in talent, but with question marks. But to me, they just, I don't know. They have big playability from time to time, but it's like, I don't know. I just don't have enough good things to say about the Colts with the way that they ended their season. They had a shot, and they essentially they blew it to the Giants. What else do I have to say? And it's like, and that's the next team we'll put on here. We'll put the Giants. So the Giants, a long story short, you have, Dexter Lawrence, who's obviously your best player. You have Malik Nabers, but then that's it. And Slayton is leaving in free agency, who's been a consistent wide receiver for you for years. Nothing crazy, but he has been very good with whomever has been playing quarterback. Seems to be a very adaptable wide receiver. I'm curious to see where he actually goes, on a side note. But yeah, the Giants, I don't know. I'm not going to say anymore. But now I'm going to add another team, and I'm going to say the Raiders. The Raiders, to me, I don't know what to think. They obviously didn't get Ben Johnson. There's some rumors that they're going to go after Darnold. How much is that going to really help them? I don't know. I'm sure that Brady's going to tell them to draft a bunch of O-line. It's like, to even see what you have on offense, you're going to have to draft O-line because you can't operate with the O-line they have. Another team that I'm going to put here. I'm going to put, and I think it might honestly be the last team. Let me see here. The last team that we put in, close to zero chance, looking at these teams, I'm going to say, you know what? I think that's honestly all the teams. I actually don't think I can put any other ones here. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 7 teams in here, so we have 25 in the upper tiers, or I guess the upper 3 quarters. But now we move on to talent, but question marks. So another team here that I'm definitely going to put is the Cowboys. The main issue I have with the Cowboys is that you don't have a lot of cap space. Teams have kind of figured it out that it's like the CeeDee Lamb show. Dak Prescott did not look good at all. And then it's like he suffers, a significant injury. And he's getting up there in age. He's not like the oldest guy at that age, but it's like, man, did he really pull it nicely in terms that he gets paid. He doesn't play the whole season. It's like the paycheck curse, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, the Cowboys. Another team I'm going to put in here that may surprise a lot of people is the Steelers. I think this could be the year where Tomlin doesn't have a winning season. And I think that, with them losing Najee Harris and potentially Jaylen Warren, because he's a restricted free agent. I don't think if they let both of them walk, this team is like, what are they going to do offensively? They have TJ Watt. I acknowledge the prowess of TJ Watt, and I love TJ Watt. It is fun to watch him play. He's just one of the most untapped, unbridled brainers of rage to the QB. But it's like, it's not enough. And it's like, you have talent on the defense, but it's like the culture was just rough. Moving on to another talent but question mark team, I'm going to put the Falcons. I think the Falcons are a team that, everyone thought they were going to do so much better. But it's like their defensive coordinator was, bad. Their defense, took, a big step back from, doing good things the year before. And ultimately being derailed by the QB. But the QB didn't derail him this season. I mean, I guess you could say, I guess Kirk did kind of derail them in a sense. But with how much talent this team has, I don't even feel like I should be putting them here. But it's like, I don't know. It leads me to question their head coach and whether he's willing to, make the hard decision during the year. Obviously he was a rookie head coach last year, but it's like, you've got to be able to, grab the reins and lead your team, which he didn't do. And it was too late when he pulled Kirk and he put in Penix. We're going to do some more dark horse. I think we're going to cap out the legit contenders and dark horse. We obviously have 7 teams in here. There's like 7 more that I want to put in. Obviously these 2, because these would essentially be, like I said earlier, the teams that, they're the teams that, will make the playoffs in my eyes. I'm going to put the Commanders in here. So the Commanders, obviously Jayden Daniels was magical. Obviously the thing about their team is that, nobody expected them to be in the playoffs last year. I think the defense, will get better. I think they'll get more protection for Daniels. Not like it was a huge issue, but they'll definitely get more. I think that they'll still be a dark horse, though. Unless they nail free agency in the draft, which you just never know with free agent in the draft, whether these guys will mesh, whether they'll still carry the momentum. I mean, everybody thought that the Texans were going to be legit contenders in year 2, and look at what happened to them. I don't like to jump and say that just because a QB did great his first year that he can't and it's like Jayden Daniels does seem like he'll be one of the exception, but who knows? I do like Dan Quinn, and I think he'll do things to fix that defense. more importantly, the run defense that kind of seemed to be their Achilles heel against the Eagles. Moving on to another team, I think it's time to put an AFC team in here. I'm going to put the Bengals. This obviously has to do with the fact that, like, yeah, they're going to franchise tag Higgins, and that they're, I guess, you know, this was just kind of a rumor. And I mean, you know, it kind of makes sense for it to be true to make Burrow happy, but their plan is to try and have Hendrickson, Higgins, and Chase, and to keep them moving forward, and then Burrow to be their, you know, their four superstar like talent tandem across the team. Obviously 3 players being on offense, but it's going to be tough for them, you know, because of the way the defense played. And it's like, can the defense turn around? I think they can, but I've also seen that like defenses can struggle even with a great QB, and it's like Burrow had to perform bloody miracles all year, and they still weren't able to, you know, make the playoffs. So we've got, you know, the whole NFC North, the Commanders, and then the Bengals. Another team that I'm going to put in here is the Chiefs. I think that, you know, you might think it's nuts to say this, but I think the Chiefs, you know, with their salary cap position, with the players that got hurt, and with the players that they could potentially be losing, and, you know, just the fact that their team is kind of aging or whatever, and it's like their O-line obviously proved really rough, you know, and that's not something that's, you know, just a guarantee to get fixed, you know, type of thing. You know, this is, I feel comfortable putting the Chiefs here. Obviously, you know, more than likely they'll make the playoffs. The only true contenders in their division, as I would say, would be the Chargers. Actually, I think the Chargers are more legit. I do think the Broncos could be, but you know, let me do that as well. We're gonna, you know, it seems kind of crazy, but these were kind of the top 2. Or the most winningest divisions, at least, you know, if I were to guess off the top of my head, were the Chiefs division and then the Lions division. I'm only saying that because they were the division leaders. I'm going to say the Broncos are in here as well as the Chargers. And to briefly cover on this, I think the Broncos, they moved on, they settled, you know, what their problems were, and they moved forward. And, you know, while I don't think that they have a ton of cap space, I think that they have picks available, and I think that they're coming into the identity of being a very good defense, and, you know, their offense can only improve with better talent, you know, alongside Cortland Sutton, Mims, and then, of course, Bo Nix at the helm. And I think that, you know, if they get a legit running back, you know, watch out for the Broncos this year. The Chargers obviously kind of have a different sort of issue. They have a good, they have a good defense, obviously, and I expect that to be good. Herbert obviously was kind of banged up this year and didn't quite look the same, but their running game was kind of sporadic because of injuries and that sort of thing. And then the thing that ultimately killed them was lack of weapons in the passing attack, which they'll address this offseason, and they'll get more weapons for Herbert. You know, because I think their O-line can be really good, is really good, to be honest. Herbert is good. You may just, I mean, depending on if you're keeping Dobbins at running back, he's obviously could leave, you know. But then it's like, add another wide receiver and, you know, try to progress Quentin Johnston, because he had good flashes this year, but just disappeared, you know, from time to time. But otherwise, there's 9 teams here. So that leaves like 5 for legit, potentially. Let's move on to legit contenders again. So for legit contenders, I obviously have Eagles, Ravens, Bills. And looking at the NFC, it's just one of those things to me that I think the NFC, with how the Eagles played, the Eagles to me set themselves apart, and it's hard for me to put any other team in here, if that makes any sense. I know it might seem like I'm putting the Eagles on a pedestal, but heck, I'll say it. I am putting them on a pedestal, but I just don't think there's another NFC team that that is in here that is really good. Like I would be inclined to put the Rams because they seemed like, oh, they really, were playing really good, and they looked like they could have maybe given the Eagles a run for their money at the end of that game. And that the snow really helped the Eagles, with Stafford, but we don't know. It could be Rodgers and Devontae joining, Cooper Kupp. Or Puka Nacua, because Cooper Kupp is, likely going to be traded. But it's like, I don't think that there really is, to say legit contender. I think, maybe there's a few elite teams. You know what I'm actually going to say? I'm actually going to say that these are my legit contenders, as of right now. I'm not going to say any other teams, actually. So moving on, we have 3 here, and then we have 1, 2. So it's like we only really have 2 more teams that are like dark horse. So here are the teams that I think will be remaining for dark horse. We obviously have the Chargers, Vikings, Bears, Lions, Packers, the whole NFC North. And then we have Commanders, Bengals, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers. Thinking of another team, here's a team that I think could get better. Doesn't have a lot of cap space, but I think, they really established their players, and I really like them. The Buccaneers. And then, we'll round out the list with the Rams. I'm going to say the Rams just because I think that McVay is a good coach. I think that the defense really showed that, like, oh man, they missed Donald because he's obviously a Hall of Famer, but they recovered way better than anybody could have anticipated, I feel like. Like, even the Rams organization, I'm sure, was like, damn, it's like we didn't have a down year between, losing Donald and then re-evaluating and re-identifying our defense and that sort of thing. So it's like we have, these 3, and then we have the 11 here. So these would be like these would be, and obviously I think I have more. So there's 1, NFC and the Eagles, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's like, yeah, we have an extra NFC team in there, I guess. But it's like, it's kind of hard to say. Obviously, maybe I could say the Bears aren't going to make the playoffs, but I just don't see that happening. And it's like, just because a team, is in a stacked division and they don't make the playoffs doesn't mean that they weren't potentially a dark horse. Like, it could legit come down to that. And then it's like, so we have, 14 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 there. So what teams do we not even have on this list yet? So we have, going through this list, I have, the only teams I haven't covered are, I guess, so I don't mean to be hard on them, but the Panthers to me have been too sporadic. Bryce Young obviously looked a lot better after he had been benched and taken a sideline seat. But the Panthers to me, who knows, right? And it's tricky, right? The Panthers, some other teams, that people are probably surprised about, maybe that they're not in the upper echelon, is I'm actually going to put the 49ers, and then the Eagles. The thing about the not the Eagles, the Seahawks, different bird. Excuse me. So the 49ers, and then, the problem I see with them is that if they don't have McCaffrey, they have a struggling offense. And then, Debo played bad last year. Yeah, he requested a trade. I would trade him. I would get a draft capital for him, if you can. He did not play well last year. Ayuk coming off a major injury. Ricky Pearsall, to me, looked like he could be very promising. Obviously, you still have Kittle, but we all know that Kittle can't just carry the team, and he's getting up there in age. The defense. The D-line isn't the best. Nick Bosa has been good, but it's like, they still got exposed a good amount last year. Like, even against the Chiefs, who didn't have, that much firepower, they were exposed. Now, the Seahawks, I just don't trust their O-line. I think they have talent, but they've never been able to utilize it all. It's kind of like Atlanta in a sense, where it's like good running back tandem, good wide receivers, albeit Tyler Lockett might be gone. The rumors there. And then Metcalf, the trade talks, even though they say that they're not planning on moving from him. And from what I've heard, they're asking for a lot, which for a guy who didn't play every game last year, I don't think a team's going to bite on that. But the Seahawks, I think their pass defense is really good on the defense, but their run defense was... And it's like we all know from last year, you cannot win a championship unless you have good run defense. And even then, it's like it's not a guarantee. So it's like the 49ers and the Seahawks, I'm sorry, but you are going here. I'm being harsh on you because your whole division underperformed. And then we also, I guess we need to talk about the Cardinals. The Cardinals could add talent, but they got a lot of kind of holes. And it's like Kyler Murray was playing so good at the beginning of last year, but then he just fell off. I don't know if it's because teams figure him out or if it's the whole height disadvantage because, some parts of the field are harder for him to throw to just because he can't see him as well. But it's the Cardinals, and then their defense. It's like, I don't think that I can't even really name that many players from their defense. So it's like, that's a question mark, a big question mark, But now looking at this. So you guys, the last team, and I decided to kind of break my rule on this, but I decided to add the Texans to dark horse teams in the sense that I think that the core of this team is still going to be strong. On offense, Joe Mixon, Tunzel, the lineman, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Obviously, they're losing Stephon Diggs more than likely, but I do think that they'll be able to... I do think that they'll be able to get into the playoffs, of course, being that their division is weaker and there's a lot of question marks around every other team in their division. Maybe the Jaguars could give them a run for their money, obviously. But it's like the two other teams in their division, the Titans and the Colts, in bottom tier. I just think that, with the way the Texans played on defense and that DeMeco Ryans is, a good defensive mind, I think that they do deserve to be a dark horse team. And that's going to kind of conclude it for the list. I know it's a longer video. I want to thank you for watching. If you have any comments, or even questions about, what certain teams, I would definitely be more than willing to chat with you guys in the comments. But for this, episode of Cast, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next Tuesday in another video. But if you like this NFL content twice a week on Tuesday and Friday, then feel free to like and subscribe. But as always, go Pack Go.